Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Circle.
All those who are scoring 90 plus marks in the prelims examination have a very strong chance to clear the prelims. Now, you should start preparing for the coming mains examination without any confusion. Rao's IAS has launched General Studies Mains Test Series and Quality Improvement Program for Mains 2020. The goals of the program are: first, revision of the most important themes from the perspective of mains examination. For this, there will be Mains Compass, which are subject-wise compilations, and Quality Improvement Program classroom discussions. Second, fine-tuning of answer writing approach through rigorous testing, sample answers, evaluation and personal mentorship from the teachers. Third, simulation of exam-like testing through tests which will help you understand the art and science of answer writing along with honing your time management skills. The new batch is starting from 16th of October, so enroll now and better your chances to clear the mains examination. The link to enroll for this program and its detail are given in the description of the video.
Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why, and how of newspaper reading from our examination perspective. Now, today we shall discuss the important news which has appeared in the New Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper, dated 23rd October 2020. The news to be discussed has been displayed on your screen, and timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So, on this note, let's start our today's discussion. The first news to be discussed appears as a lead article on page number 6. It says, "Drive a harder bargain at the Delhi meet. At the 2+2 ministerial forum, India must ensure that its gamble with Trump's regime so close to the US election pays off." Now, this particular article, written by Suhasini Haidar, mentions that at the upcoming 2+2 ministerial dialogue between India and United States, India needs to bargain really hard with the US, especially keeping in mind two factors. One, the factor of China, and the second, the aspect of US election taking place. It is in this regard the author says that India should not repeat the same mistake it committed in the year 2016, as just prior to the US election in 2016, India was asked to ratify the Paris Agreement. And this was asked by the Democrat leaders of United States, as Hillary Clinton was their presidential nominee. However, what happened was that India did ratify to the Paris Agreement. However, Hillary Clinton lost the elections. And to rub salt on the wound, the Donald Trump administration moved out of the Paris Agreement in June 2017. So it is in this regard the author says that same mistake should not be committed by India, and India should bargain really hard at the upcoming 2+2 dialogue meet between India's External Affairs Minister and Defense Minister with respect to United States Secretary of State as well as Defense Secretary. So in this backdrop, let us understand the problem of China with respect to three fronts, that is at the front of border at LAC, maritime sphere, as well as in the SAARC nations or the SAARC region, and also why India needs to bargain hard with the United States, especially keeping two things in mind. First, what is the general prediction of the US election going so far? That is, whether Donald Trump will again become the president of the United States or Joe Biden will become the new president of the United States. So India should keep this thing clearly in its mind. And second, in case Donald Trump wins again, then whether Mike Pompeo, the US Secretary of State, will meet India's requirements. So it is in this backdrop the statement of US Secretary of State becomes very important, especially with respect to court. Now the problem here is that both India as well as United States does not see the Indo-Pacific region in the same way. So here two statements of Mike Pompeo becomes important. In one of the statement he says about the fact that free nations should work together, or free nations can work together to thwart threats posed by the Chinese Communist Party. And second, at the recent Quad meeting he said that it is more critical now than ever that we collaborate to protect our people and partners from Chinese Communist Party's exploitation, corruption and coercion. So these two statements of Mike Pompeo very clearly states about United States Indo-Pacific policy, that US wants India's maritime presence in the Indo-Pacific region, especially in the South China Sea. However, India does not see eye to eye with respect to this aspect. And it is in this regard the statement of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi made at the Shangri-La Dialogue of 2018 becomes important. He had said that for India, Quad is aligned to India's Indo-Pacific policy and by no means directed against any other country. Now here definitely the reference was to China. Now this statement was made in 2018 and since then lot of waters has passed under the bridge, and it is here where the present confrontations with China in the last 6 months has changed the scenario. And it is this changed scenario with respect to India-China disturbed relationship which the United States wants to tap into. So the US is looking forward with respect to India's commitment with United States, keeping in mind the problem of India and China. Now, another aspect which needs to be understood is that yes, times are changing, especially with respect to India and China, and it is in this regard the inclusion of Australia must be seen in the Malabar naval exercise. So, United States always wanted Quad to be a military alliance, and with Australia participating in the Malabar exercise, the Quad will complete as Malabar will include India, United States, Japan, as well as Australia. However, India is still reluctant to see eye to eye with respect to Indo-Pacific policy of the United States of America. Now, coming to the other aspects of this discussion. Now, India has always wanted and still wants to solve all the issues, including border as well as LAC issues with China, bilaterally. However, things are changing very quickly at the ground level, as China is constantly posing threats to India at three different fronts. One, at the LAC, second, in the maritime sphere, and third, around the SAARC nations, as China is providing economic help mostly to the neighboring countries of India, including Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, as well as Afghanistan. So it is here where the problem of India and its neighborhood has increased, especially with respect to increased Chinese influence. So a question in your mains can be asked with respect to increased Chinese influence in India and its neighborhood and its impact on India's foreign policy. So we were discussing about the fact that India still want to sort out its issues with China bilaterally. However, things are not going very great on this front between India and China. And it is here as well where US can intervene. Now it is here where the author says that if India allows any other country, including United States, to interfere between India and China relationship, then India must take steps very calculatively, considering two important aspects as of now. A is United States election results, that is, who will win the result, whether a Democrat will win the result or a Republican will win the result, as winning result of these two different candidates might change the overall global scenario. Now, another important fact which Government of India must take into consideration as well as understand that Prime Minister Narendra Modi openly supported Donald Trump at Houston, and this was taken note of by the Democrat leaders by their absence. So if Joe Biden, who is a Democrat nominee, wins the US presidential election, things might be different with respect to Indo-Pacific policy as well as India. And second is about the challenge posed by China on three fronts. So India should take its decision with respect to involving United States considering these two factors in mind. And it is here where the author says that India should not rush into taking any decision at the request of United States. Now with respect to India and its neighborhood as well as SAARC regions, Mike Pompeo will not only visit India but will also visit Maldives, Sri Lanka as well as Indonesia. Now with Maldives, United States is about to sign a defense agreement which will pave way for a strategic dialogue. Now an important point to be understood here is that India has not opposed this move by United States because India believes that in the Indian Ocean region it will allow the United States to counter Chinese influence. So accordingly, India has not opposed this move of United States signing a defense agreement with Maldives. Now, regarding Sri Lanka, we all know that China has invested heavily in Sri Lanka, and it is here where the role of United States also becomes very important. So, on this front, the United States want to have various discussions on infrastructure projects, and the US also wants to discuss about a 5 years aid of $480 million to Sri Lanka through the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Now, we were also discussing about the challenge posed by China at three fronts. It is here where the author says that how India can leverage its 2 plus 2 dialogue with the United States, especially at the front of LAC and also in the maritime sphere, including some other areas as well. So the author says that with respect to maritime sphere, discussions will take place around strengthening ties in the Indo-Pacific region, enhancing joint military exercises like the Malabar, where entire Quad, including Australia, will participate next month in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, as well as completing the last of foundational agreements with Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement for Geospatial Cooperation, that is BECA. Now, with signing of BECA, two countries, that is India and US, will be able to share geospatial information and intelligence helpful for defense related issues. More importantly, it will make our missile system more accurate. Now, regarding the LAC front, the author says that it will be very interesting to see that how United States and India collaborates on dealing with India's most immediate continental challenge from China, which is at the LAC. Now, the author says that Indian army is very much capable to handle the border issues with China. However, Mike Pompeo can help or promise about enhancing and expediting United States defense deals with India. So here the author is talking about enhance and expedite defense deals with United States. Now, another very important point highlighted by the author is that United States should pressurize Pakistan, especially with respect to terrorism. Now, this pressurization on Pakistan will also help to avoid two-front conflict, that is, conflict at the side of Pakistan as well as China simultaneously, and this will also relieve pressure from the Indian military. So these aspects also becomes important, and it is here where India should go for a hard bargain, especially with respect to pressurizing Pakistan on terrorism by the United States of America. And lastly, the author has also highlighted about other key areas where India can bargain with the United States of America. These are number one with respect to GSP, where the author says that Mike Pompeo should be pushed on resolving trade issues with India, including commitment to restore India's generalized system of preferences status for exporters. Now, under GSP, there are countries which is designated as BDC or beneficiary developing countries. Now, when these countries export to United States, or in other words, we can say that when United States import articles, especially from the BDC countries, then it is duty free. So here the author says that US can be pressurized to include some of the articles of import from India as a part of BDC under GSP. That is, some articles which is exported to United States or some articles which the United States import from India should be duty free. Next, the author says that the government could press for more cooperation on 5G technology sharing. And lastly, the author says that India should also take assurance from United States that its missile defense purchase of S-400 from Russia will not come under the CAATSA law. Now, CAATSA law is United States countering America's adversaries through Sanctions Act. So basically, under the CAATSA law, US imposes sanctions on defense purchase deals, especially with respect to Iran, North Korea, as well as Russia. So here the author says that India's S-400 missile purchase from Russia should be exempted under the CAATSA law. So these are some of the hard bargains which Indian government can make with Mike Pompeo at the upcoming 2 plus 2 dialogue. Thus this article becomes important primarily from the perspective of mains examination, especially with respect to India and its neighborhood relations, and also bilateral, regional as well as global groupings as well as agreements. And in your prelims examination, it gets covered with respect to current events of international importance. Now, this topic primarily becomes important with respect to your mains examination, as questions can be asked with respect to India-US relationship, especially keeping the factor of China in mind. So with this, let's move on to our next news of discussion. The next news to be discussed appears as an editorial on page number 6. It says sooner the better. Indigenously developed test will allow scaling up of efforts to detect infection. Now this editorial is talking about two indigenously developed tests to detect COVID-19 virus, and these two tests are Feluda as well as Covirap. Now Feluda uses CRISPR-Cas9 technology and has been developed by Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology, and this institute is a unit of CSIR, that is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. Now with respect to Covirap, it has been developed by IIT Kharagpur, and this test uses a paper strip which is dipped into a reaction product, and once a paper strip is dipped into the reaction product, and if colored lines appear on the paper strip, then COVID is detected. So it is a very simple step in which the process of Coviraps detect COVID-19 by detecting colored lines in a paper strip. So this editorial is with respect to the commercial availability of both these indigenously developed tests for COVID-19. Now the best aspect of these tests are twofold. Number one, that it is very specific, that is the results are very specific and accurate. And number two, that it is less costly. So both aspects are important with respect to commercial availability of both these tests. Now, the problem with respect to the present antigen test is that first, it has low specificity, and second, it is of low sensitivity. That is, the results are not very accurate. Whereas, with respect to RT PCR test, the results are very accurate. However, they need better lab infrastructure. So, both these aspects are also important to understand the efficacy of these two indigenously developed tests in India, that is, Feluda as well as Covirap. Now, with respect to Covirap test, it uses three aspects. Number one, it uses an automated pre-programmable temperature control unit. Number two, it uses a special detection unit on genomic analysis. And number three, it uses customized smartphone app for results. Now, both these tests, that is Feluda and Covirap, are more specific because of two important aspects. First is that they isolate RNA from the swab samples. And number two, they amplify DNA prior to detection of the virus. So these two are important aspects with respect to both Feluda as well as Covirap. So considering the working of Covirap, the function of special detection unit on genomic analysis is very important, as the test involves three master mixes, and this works as markers of different genes. This marker helps to confirm the presence of SARS-CoV-2 virus. So the samples collected are reacted with these mixes. So after reaction of samples collected with these master mixes, then paper strips are dipped into the reaction products. And if there appears colored lines, then it indicates or detects the presence of COVID virus. So this is how the Covirap functions. Now with respect to this particular editorial, let us understand two important aspects. One is with respect to the benefits of Covirap, and second is with respect to the challenges which still remains. Now with respect to benefits of Covirap, we can say that it requires minimum lab infrastructure. The word here is minimum. So you must understand that at least certain infrastructure is still required, but at least less compared to the test conducted through RT-PCR test. That is, not that much of an infrastructure is required which is necessary under RT-PCR test. Second, easy sample collection as saliva is collected as sample. Third, reliance on trained personnel not required. Fourth, cheap and less time consuming, as the result of Covirap takes approx 1 hour. Next, the paper cartridges which is used are easily replaceable, and accordingly it can be used easily across rural areas in India. And also the fact that this testing mechanism can be used even for detecting other diseases such as malaria, dengue, influenza, Japanese encephalitis, TB, etc. So these can be said to be some of the benefits with respect to Covirap. Now coming to the part of challenges. First is to learn to isolate RNA from samples. Second is lack of at least of minimum lab infrastructure within India, especially in rural India. Third is the fact that this test as of now is not available commercially. And this is because there is a need to develop protocols and tests for using saliva samples. And also the fact that field testing and validation of such protocols are still pending. So these can be said to be the challenges with respect to use of COVIRAP. However, once commercial application of COVIRAP is allowed, then more tests would be done through COVIRAP rather than through the present antigen test. So this particular news with respect to COVIRAP becomes important with respect to general science in your prelims examination, and in your mains gets covered under GS paper 3, especially with respect to technology, under achievements of Indians in science and technology, as well as indigenization of technology and developing new technology. So with this discussion on COVIRAP, let's move on to the next news analysis. Now the next news to be discussed appears on page number 10. It says CPI-IW, that is Consumer Price Index for Industrial Workers base year revised to 2016 from previously 2001. In this regard, the news says that new series not to affect dearness allowances given to government staff as of now, that is for now. So as per this news, the base year to calculate CPI-IW has been revised from the previous 2001 to 2016. And this revision will reflect changes with respect to consumption pattern as well as more weightage of spending on health, education, recreation, as well as other miscellaneous expenses such as transportation as well as telecommunication. So all these aspects of services is also included within CPI, that is Consumer Price Index. Further, the news also says that with respect to reflecting changes regarding the new base year, there has been reduction in weightage with respect to food items and also with respect to beverages. So this becomes a major point with respect to this particular news. Now here you must understand that CPI-IW, that is Consumer Price Index for Industrial Workers, is used to regulate dearness allowances for government staffs and industrial workers, and also it is used to revise minimum wages in scheduled employments. So these can be said to be some of the important aspects with respect to CPI-IW, and it is released by Ministry of Labour and Employment. Now from your prelims perspective, you need to know the difference between CPI as well as WPI, and also the ministry which publishes both WPI as well as CPI, including CPI-IW, CPI-RL as well as CPI-AL. Now WPI measures inflation at wholesale level, whereas at CPI level the inflation is measured at retail level. So this is the basic difference between WPI as well as CPI. Now with respect to CPI, that is Consumer Price Index, there are three kinds of Consumer Price Index, that is Consumer Price Index Rural, Consumer Price Index Urban as well as Consumer Price Index Combined. And the CPI, including rural, urban and combined, is published by NSO, that is National Statistical Office, functioning under the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So this is one important aspect to be remembered, that CPI, including CPI rural, urban and combined, is published by NSO under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, whereas the other components of CPI, including CPI-IW, that is CPI Industrial Workers, CPI-RL, that is CPI Rural Labourers, and CPI-AL, that is CPI Agricultural Labourers, is published by Ministry of Labour and Employment. So this becomes a key fact with respect to your UPSC prelims examination. So the CPI-IW is used to calculate dearness allowances of the government employees and industrial workers, where earlier the base year was 2001 and now it has been revised to 2016. Whereas with respect to rural labourers, the base year is still 1986, and it measures the rate of inflation in the commodities which are commonly consumed by rural labourers. Whereas with respect to agricultural labourers, the CPI-AL measures the rate of inflation in the commodities which are commonly consumed by agricultural labourers, and this also has a base year of 1986-87. Now this was with respect to CPI as well as CPI-IW, CPI-RL and CPI-AL. Whereas wholesale price index is calculated and published by Office of Economic Advisor under Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and the base year for WPI is 2011-12. whereas the base year for CPI is 2012. Now the categories of WPI includes primary articles, manufactured products, as well as fuel and power. However, with respect to WPI, greater weightage is given to manufactured products as compared to food items. Whereas categories of CPI includes food and beverages, pan, tobacco and intoxicants, clothing and footwear, housing, fuel and light, miscellaneous, which includes education, healthcare, transportation, etc. Now, with respect to highest weightage under WPI, manufactured products is given the highest weightage under WPI, whereas with respect to CPI, food and beverages is given the highest weightage. So one of the basic difference between CPI and WPI is that CPI gives more weightage to food products, whereas WPI gives higher weightage or more weightage to manufactured products. Now with respect to impact of increase in food items, an increase in food items would have comparatively lesser impact on WPI as compared to CPI, as the impact of food items will be more on CPI. As the table highlights, that the increase in the food items would have larger impact of CPI as compared to WPI because it gives more weightage to the food products. Whereas with respect to increase in food items under WPI, it would have less impact on WPI as compared to CPI because WPI, that is wholesale price index, provides higher weightage to manufactured products and lower weightage to food items, the aspect which we have just seen here. Another difference between WPI and CPI is that it does not include any services, whereas CPI includes services such as health, education, telecommunication, transport, etc. Further, the WPI is not targeted by RBI, whereas Consumer Price Index is targeted by RBI, that is Reserve Bank of India, with respect to maintaining rate of inflation of 4% with a deviation of plus minus 2%. So the RBI also targets CPI, that is Reserve Bank of India also targets Consumer Price Index in order to maintain inflation in the economy. Further, the Labour Ministry have also talked about certain future endeavours, especially with respect to revising Consumer Price Index for agricultural labourers as well as revision of index every 5 years. Now, after our understanding about Consumer Price Index as well as Wholesale Price Index, let us take up these two questions asked by UPSC in the year 2015 and very recently in 2020. So the question asked in 2015 was, which of the following brings out the Consumer Price Index for industrial workers, that is CPI-IW? Options were the Reserve Bank of India, the Department of Economic Affairs, the Labour Bureau and the Department of Personnel and Training. We had discussed very clearly that the Labour Bureau under Ministry of Labour and Employment publishes three other variants of CPI including CPI-IW, and this was the exact question asked by UPSC in 2015. So here the correct answer becomes C, that is the Labour Bureau. Now let us take up this question asked by UPSC in 2020. Consider the following statements. First, the weightage of food in Consumer Price Index is higher than that in Wholesale Price Index. Yes, we have just discussed this particular aspect here. So the first statement becomes correct. Second, the WPI does not capture changes in prices of services which CPI does. Now this aspect has also been discussed with respect to services included within WPI. As we can see that no services are included within WPI. So the second statement also becomes correct. Third, Reserve Bank of India has now adopted WPI as its key measure of inflation and to decide on changing key policy rates. No, that statement is incorrect as RBI still captures CPI to monitor inflation in the economy. So the third statement becomes incorrect. So the question was, which of the statements given above are correct? So the correct answer here was A, that is 1 and 2 only. Now this topic becomes important with respect to economic and social development in the prelims examination, whereas in the mains examination gets covered under GS paper 3, especially with respect to economic development. So after this discussion on revision of base year to 2016 with respect to CPI-IW, let us move to the next topic of discussion. The next news to be discussed appears on page number 14 in the economy section. The news says that Reserve Bank of India to buy rupees 20,000 crores of government securities on 29th October. Now this news highlights that following a review of the current liquidity and financial conditions, it has decided, that is RBI has decided to purchase government securities for an aggregate amount of rupees 20,000 crores under the open market operation. Now, from your examination perspective, the term open market operation becomes important. So, the open market operations conducted by Reserve Bank of India simply means sale or purchase of government security from the market. And the purpose of sale or purchase is to adjust the rupee liquidity conditions in the economy. Now, when we say the word adjust, it refers to two aspects or two conditions can be considered here. First is the condition when there is not much money in the economy or there is economic slowdown. That is, not much economic activity with respect to investment is taking place in the market. And second is with respect to higher inflation in the economy. So, in both these aspects, RBI conducts open market operation. Now, in case of economic slowdown, the purpose is to inject more money into the system. So, this is done by RBI by buying security from the banks. So, the moment RBI buys security from the banks, RBI transfers certain money to the banks with respect to buying of such security. And this overall injects liquidity in the market. So, overall, we can say that when RBI buys security from the market, then it injects liquidity in the market, which leads to increased money supply in the market. This increased money supply in the market results in increased demand and investment expenditure and overall helps to counter economic slowdown. So basically, through buying government securities from the market, RBI effectively injects liquidity in the market. So here the news says that under open market operations, RBI to buy government securities worth 20,000 crore. So the amount of 20,000 crore will be injected in the market. Now, considering these aspects, let us go through these two questions asked in the prelims examination. The question asked in 2013 was, in the context of Indian economy, open market operation refers to. Options were A. Borrowing by scheduled banks from RBI. B. Lending by commercial banks to industry and trade. C. Purchase and sale of government securities by the RBI. And D. None of the above. In this, the correct answer was C. That is, purchase and sale of government securities by the RBI. Now, coming to this question of 2015, the question was, with reference to Indian economy, consider the following. First, bank rate. Second, open market operations. Third, public debt. And fourth, public revenue. So the question was, which of the following is our component of monetary policy? So here the correct answer is only 1 and 2. That is, only bank rate and open market operations are part of monetary policy as per this particular question. So under open market operation, if RBI can inject liquidity in the market, then RBI also can take liquidity out of the market to check higher inflation or to bring inflation under control. So this topic of open market operation also becomes important from our examination perspective. And this topic also gets covered under Indian economy and in the mains under GS paper 3. With this, let's move on to the next news of discussion. The next news to be discussed appears on page number 8. It says, Army Chief commissions INS Kavaratti at Vishakhapatnam. It is the last of the 4 indigenously built ASW stealth corvettes. Now, ASW here refers to anti-submarine warfare. Now, this anti-submarine warfare has been built under Project 28 of Kamorta class and was formally inducted into the Indian Navy at Naval Dockyard in Eastern Naval Command. Now, in this regard, you need to know about Project 28. It is a project under which 4 anti-submarine warships have been built indigenously in India. Now, the object of Project 28 was to enhance localization and also development of warship construction industry in India. And the 4 corvettes built under Project 28 includes INS Kamorta, commissioned in 2014, INS Kadmat, commissioned in 2016, INS Keeltan, commissioned in 2017, and INS Kavaratti, commissioned now in 2020. And these warships are named after the islands in the Lakshadweep archipelago. Now, with respect to anti-submarine warfare, it is a branch of underwater warfare which uses surface warships, aircrafts, submarines, or other platforms to find, track, and deter, and also damage or destroy enemy submarines. So, this news highlights that INS Kavaratti is a anti-submarine warfare stealth corvette. Now, stealth ship is a ship which employs stealth technology construction techniques in order to ensure that it is harder to detect by one or more radar. So basically under stealth technology, it is very difficult to detect under radar system. Further, with respect to stealth technology, detection is also harder with respect to visual, sonar, as well as through infrared methods. Next, it says about a corvette. Now, corvette is a small ship and is traditionally the smallest class of vessel considered to be proper warship. And the warship class above the corvette is the frigate class. Now, another important aspect is that INS Kavaratti has been built with up to 90% of indigenous content, and also there has been a use of carbon composites for the superstructure of the warship. Now, carbon composites are a family of materials which comprises of carbon or graphite matrix which is reinforced with carbon or graphite fibers. And this overall increases the strength, versatility and toughness of carbon composites. INS Kavaratti's ship's weapons and sensors suite is predominantly indigenous and also showcases India's growing capability in this particular area. Another important point is that development of all the four anti-submarine warfare under Project 28 is very important regarding the Indo-Pacific context. Now, India needs to counter the presence of Chinese submarines as well around the Indian Ocean region. So, in this regard as well, the commissioning of INS Kavaratti is a welcome sign for India. Now, this news becomes important with respect to current events of national importance and also with respect to security. Now, after our discussion, this becomes your practice question for the day. The question is, consider the following statements. First, Consumer Price Index captures changes in price of food products and services. Second, Wholesale Price Index is released by Labor Bureau. And third, under Wholesale Price Index, more weightage is given to food products and beverages as compared to Consumer Price Index. So the question is, which of the statements given above are correct? Options are A, 2 and 3 only, B, 3 only, C, 1 and 2 only, and D, 1 only. Now coming to the answer of yesterday. The question was National Commission of Safai Karmchari is a. Options were A, constitutional body, B, statutory body, C, non-statutory body, and D, public-private partnership. Now here the correct answer is C, that is non-statutory body. Now earlier the National Commission of Safai Karmchari was a statutory body, but later the act dissolved. So now it is a non-statutory body. So with these questions we come to an end to today's discussion. Thank you.